Now, a couple of weeks ago, the Commonwealth Bank caused a hullabaloo because they were going to move customers to a different account and then charge them $3 to withdraw their own money at the branch. And I remember hearing one of their executives on radio the day that they decided to put that on hold for 6 months. I think it was with Michael McLaren on 2GB. And he was asked whether the chief executive, Matt Canavan, would be making any kind of public statement. And he basically just said, thanks for your time, and hung up the phone. Well, now we know why. He said that he first heard about the decision to charge customers the $3 fee to take out their own money through the media. Joining me now is National Senator Matt Canavan. I mean, Matt, this is unbelievable. I mean, this guy's supposed to be the boss of the biggest bank in the country that gets a lot of support from the federal government because, as we know, the federal government secures the banks in this country, and he didn't even know about the plan until he heard about it in the news. I mean, customers are being taken for a ride.
Well, look, I've got no idea, Caleb, what happens within the Commonwealth Bank, but something's gone wrong here. Given the public reaction alone, you would think that those people making this decision in the Commonwealth Bank would have been aware, or should have been aware, that a decision like this would cause significant controversy, and therefore should be elevated to the senior leaders of the bank, including the CEO, to work out how they should make this decision. I mean, look, there's no doubt that the costs of distributing cash, holding cash, are getting more expensive. But I don't think the customers of banks want those costs to be recovered in this way. It was just absurd, and it got pulled very quickly. So I suppose the broader concern I have here than just that one decision is the sensibility of those people making decisions within the banks and whether they really understand the pressures that basic Australians are under. So while this decision received this enormous amount of attention, what about all the other decisions that are being made on a day-to-day basis that we might not see, where bank executives really just have no idea how Australians are struggling right now?
Yeah, and it's just all part of the gradual push towards a cashless society. You make it harder and harder to access the cash, and then the bank turns around and says, well, people don't want cash anymore, so we're getting rid of the ATMs and we're getting rid of the branches. Well, chicken and egg. The bank's made the decision that they don't want you to have cash. That's why people aren't spending cash.
Yeah, look, I'm not so sure this was necessarily of that vein. I mean, this decision didn't stop you getting cash out from ATMs. It was the same charges. You get no charges if it's Commonwealth Bank ATMs. Obviously, that's the vast majority of Australians would use that vehicle to do it. I mean, there is an issue here. I do want to support the option of cash for people, but we also can't be naive about the pressures that are facing the fact that fewer people are losing cash, and therefore the fixed costs of transporting cash, securing cash, distributing cash are becoming more expensive to do that. And someone ultimately has to pick up that cost. It either does get charged to those people using cash, or it gets recovered through the general interest rate margins that we all pay to the banks. So that's a challenge. Look, I do think, we also need to think about the technological developments here and things like Bitcoin and cryptocurrency that give people a lot of other options than just cash. The key thing for me is to making sure that people aren't locked in and they have choice. And there's no reason with those technological developments that there isn't going to be even more choice in how you store your currency, how you use that as a means of exchange. And that's a great thing. So, look, it is a bit scary and a bit off-putting, but I don't necessarily agree that we're heading to some kind of state-sanctioned control of our money because I just don't think government's going to be able to do that anymore, given the choice that's out there for consumers.
I certainly hope so. Now, it's been a hot couple of days in Sydney, and again, we've been told to brace for potential blackouts because the Bayswater and Araring coal-fired power stations are operating below capacity. They both had to shut down a unit last week. And again, it just proves that this infrastructure has been run into the ground too fast without any other power to make up for it. I mean, how many times, this is only, we're barely even a month into summer, and we've had these warnings at least 4 or 5 times now, so God knows what the rest of summer is going to be like. How many summers are we going to go through where we all just go, oh, OK, yeah, well, it might be a blackout tomorrow, because, of course, so much money's been invested in renewables and no money in coal, which means the infrastructure is degraded, and then all of a sudden we go, oh, we don't actually have enough power.
Well, we're just playing Russian roulette with our energy security now. It is a matter of when, not if, we have large-scale blackouts unless something is done quickly to bring on more reliable supplies of power. And that's not me saying that. That is the energy regulators themselves, like the Australian Energy Market Operator, who have put out report after report in the last couple of years that have warned that there is a significant gap emerging in New South Wales and Victoria in particular in the need for reliable power. Now, the problem is those same regulators turn around and then double down on the path of obsessing over renewables that has led us into this very position. I mean, what this shows in the last couple of weeks is we kind of need coal. When a couple of units go down because they're old and creaking and old machines break, when that happens at the moment, these blackout risks, metastasise. So why don't we build a few new coal-fired power stations? And then we wouldn't have these risks. That wouldn't take very long. They can be built off the shelf in a few years. They wouldn't cost very much. They'd be a fraction of the cost of either the nuclear plan of the coalition or the ridiculous renewables plan of the government. And guess what, Caleb? I don't think we probably need 2 or 3 coal-fired power stations in New South Wales, Victoria. I don't think 2 or 3 coal-fired power stations is going to blow the planet up. Not while China's building 2 of them a week.
Exactly.
I mean, the planet hasn't blown up. And for the last 2 years, China's been building power stations at a rate, coal-fired power stations at a rate of 2 a week. And so why don't we just build a couple ourselves so we can have energy security, we can have more affordable energy, and we can maintain the manufacturing jobs we need to defend this country.
And we even have the coal ourselves to burn. Very quickly before we go to a break, Matt.
We send it to China.
I know, exactly. And then we subsidise them as well. It's just insane. But as you'd know, REC sank into administration earlier this year, but the services have been maintained because the government's been pumping money into it, about $80 million with taxpayer dollars. But other regional airlines are now starting to cry poor. They're accusing the federal government of creating an uneven playing field. It was Skytrans and Sharp Airlines in the Australian Today complaining about it. Is that the situation we've ended up in, where REX has essentially become a protected entity and there are other players who could potentially provide a better service or a bit of competition, but they feel effectively locked out because of the government playing favourites?
Yeah, look, I think some of those airlines are making good points. I've spoken to some of the non-REX airlines about this situation. I do think the government had to act immediately when REX went under, because airline services for some of these country towns are just absolutely essential, and so there needed to be continuation at a point of crisis. But I do think it's something that we should look at over the next year as we work out what happens to REX long term. Maybe some of this government support for rural airline routes should be opened up to the market, to other operators that might do a better job.
Competition, strange idea, isn't it? Matt Canavan, thank you for your time and Merry Christmas.